Hello, hello, hello. Sorry, I'm a little bit late. We had an operator error. So what that basically means is when you've got two screens and the one screen was up, I wasn't seeing a little button that was coming up, so I wasn't able to push anything and get going. So sorry that we are 2 minutes late. I always like to be on time with all these things. So Lee, it's great to have you online. We had a great session at lunch. We got very, very positive feedback, and I'd love to just ask you quickly, what your take was on lunchtime. You've come up with a lovely format now. We're on WealthE Wednesday, which is all around value, property, people, profit, purpose, and fun. The lunchtime session is all around the deals, and the evening session is all around a learning application. Tell us a little bit about the session at lunchtime because I've been given extremely positive feedback from it.
Yeah, we had a lot of engagement on that, and we had a record number of people attending. And I think the new format played a lot into that. Is that people were able to focus on exactly that they wanted to get out of WealthE Wednesday. Um, it was very positive. We ran out of time. The questions that came through from our audience that was very engaged were very enlightened, deep questions that needed answering, which was great because it means everyone was actually there and sharing with us. Um, and we ran over. So we're going to have to work on that. Um, but it was a very, very positive session. Lots of answers, and off the back end of that, we've had lots of interaction on our actual platform, people downloading the brochures and making investments. So all around a good positive result.
Great. Well, I mean, you can see on the screen what we covered at lunchtime, and specifically around the deals. And if you missed it, you can ask for the recording. Just ask for the recording here if you're live, and/or if you're on the WhatsApp groups, you can get them on the WhatsApp group, and/or if you go to the Facebook page, and/or you can go to the website and just ask for the platform. So lots of different ways to interact with us, and we're not going to repeat it tonight because that's the beauty of a recording. But what we are going to do tonight is we're going to go through the 8 pillars to wealth through real estate. Now, I'm not going to give you a whole introduction. Every single time that we do these webinars, we actually run through sort of the whole process and our big picture why and why we do it. If you're new to us, what I would also ask for is if you can watch the recording from last month, because what I don't want to do is every month we go through the beginning section and then, which explains who we are, why we do what we do, how we do it, what we do, etc. Because we don't need that to do that every month. And what we really want to do is build a community of regulars that are coming to get value. And so if you haven't seen all the slides, and I'm purposely doing it so that you can see the slides about what we do and the team and how we do it and our track record and our metrics, because some people think, am I the first person to do this? Well, no, we've got members in 133 countries. We've done $94 million through the platform. The current deals, that's what we spent this afternoon on, so you can really go through it. And then we always update you in terms of the UX and the UI and everything else, which is really important. But what I wanted to do tonight was to focus on the 8 steps to wealth. And so without further ado, happy with me, Lee, I'd like to invite you and everyone else onto a journey where we're going to rock and roll. We're going to go very fast. There's a lot of information to share. It's pretty much 20 years worth of my understanding and learning from the wealthiest people in the world and decoding it into 8 steps and trying to make it simple and easy for people to understand.
Yeah, absolutely. I would just like to invite everyone who's on the call to, this is an interactive session. So along the way, if you've got questions, please post them into the question box. If you've got comments, into the comment boxes. I'll be monitoring those. And at the end, there'll be time for a Ask Scott Anything session. So I look forward to that. Take it away, Scott.
Perfect. And just so that you can, practice, you'll see that there's a little chat box in the top right corner. And I'd like to just know where everyone's from. We've had some, this is my 4th webinar in 2 days, and we have an amazing array of people from all over the world, which is really, really fantastic. And so just type in there where you're from. It's always interesting for me to find out where people are from. And like Lee said, bring the questions. Like the whole idea behind this is to make it as interactive. So we've got Zimbabwe, we've got San Francisco, we've got London, we've got Midrand, Wilderness, we've got Pretoria, so lots and lots of different places. So fantastic. Well, Potchefstroom, Germany. Wow, I love the diversity. So I want to share with you the 12 lessons that wealthy people are taught that the 99% are not. Now, this is just a little gift. It's right up front. And what you basically got is the first thing is that they focus on income generating assets. The second thing is that they don't lose money. That's Warren Buffett. The third thing is asymmetric risk reward. If you don't know what I'm talking about, well, that's the beauty of why we've got the inner circle to help you with these things. Tax efficiency, diversification across and within assets, markets, currencies, and time. The fundamentals of investment, real estate, and business don't change. It's a really important concept. You can add anything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. Zig Ziglar. Appreciation is key to happiness. Your mind creates your destiny and your life. Nurture it. Chaos is your best friend. In chaos, there is opportunity. To risk nothing is to risk everything, and to be constantly learning. And just as a little gift, I put these 12 lessons together, and we actually created the Wealth Code. And so if you're interested in getting access to the Wealth Code, just type in there Wealth Code, and we will send it to you. It's actually a little, you can make it, we'll send it to you digitally, and you can make it into a little, it's like a little credit card. I actually keep it in my wallet, and it's a little gift that I have that just keeps reminding me of the top things that wealthy people do that the top 1% don't do. So if you type in their Wealth Code, we'll make sure we figure out a way to get you the Wealth Code. Now, let's strap in and get going for the very first step. So I don't know if anyone knows, and I'd love you to type it in if you do know. What does the number 8 stand for? Anyone want to let me know what the number 8 stands for? Maureen says new beginnings. Ken says pillars. So I'll take you out of your misery. It's infinity, and there David actually knows power, wealth, and influence. In Chinese mythology and based on the I Ching, the number 8 is actually wealth. And so power, wealth, and influence, David is right. He clearly knows a bit about Chinese. And so when we built the 8 steps to wealth through real estate, it was built on the I Ching. And a lot of work was done between myself and Roger Hamilton. It was built on the fundamentals of nature, and it was built on the principles of investing. So the laws of investing in business, in real estate, stock market, etc., do not ever change. And so that is why there are 8 steps, because it's based on the fundamentals of thousands and thousands of years worth of knowledge, and equally nature's principles and laws. Now, the law of gravity is a defined law. It doesn't and cannot change. And so what's interesting is that mankind changes, and times and systems change, and understanding and even the mythology and religion and everything changes. But what doesn't change is the laws of nature and ultimately, the wisdom of that has been around for centuries. And that is why it's the number 8, just so that you understand the number 8. But let's get started in terms of step number 1. So you should all be able to see on the screen there, you've got the investor test. And literally, if you go, and I'm just going to open up here quickly, if you go to the investor test .geniusu.com, so I did this in collaboration with the guys at GeniusU, you'll actually see there that you can go and you put your name in and you effectively take the test. Now, it'll take you probably around 5 minutes. There's 25 questions, and it's not a test you can pass or fail. So if you are a rank beginner or the wealthiest person that you know, it's irrelevant, because ultimately this is a test so that you can figure out where you are. So the metaphor I like to give you is that when the last time you used a GPS in your car, the first thing that it does on your phone or wherever is that it figures out where you are. Then it figures out where you want to get to, it figures out where you are. Then you put in where you want to get to, and then it helps you give a route. And invariably, it gives you a couple of routes. So this is exactly what the investor test is. It's a personalized path to wealth. My test and Lee's test are 2 very different tests in terms of it. Now, what you're going to get, and I'm sorry I forgot to open this, is a report. And Where's it gone now? Oh, that's not the. No, that's not what I'm looking for. Sorry, just give me 2 seconds. I should have opened this, but I didn't. Okay, you have to bear with me. It normally comes up there, but I don't know why it's not. Where would it be under now? Why is it not coming up? There it is. Cool. Sorry about that. I thought I had it open, but I didn't. So you'll now get a report, and this is just an example of a report where ultimately, if you look on the screen here, you can see a graph. Now, you might think that this is a fairly simple graph, but what is interesting is that on the left-hand side, you've got the life cycle of a real estate investor. Now, I'm going to go through this today, but you've got reading a book, owning a house, owning investment property, owning commercial property, owning international property, owning international commercial property, owning in 3 countries, a global portfolio, family office, and a charity and trust. On the right-hand side, you've got the wealth spectrum, which is victim, survivor, worker, player, performer, conductor, trustee, composer, and legend. At the top, you've got the freedom, fun, and impact index. And at the bottom, you've got the passive income index, and it's all in US dollars. So, you know, some people think that to have $100 passive income is great, and some people think that $100,000 is important. What's interesting is that the more, and we had a beautiful webinar last night for our inner circle. Just as anxiously, before I go any more, how much amazingly positive feedback did we get for Alex for our inner circle last night on purpose and the bigger picture why? What was your thoughts around it?
It was absolutely overwhelming. First of all, the stuff that he shared was priceless. He was so energetic, and the interaction again from the people who were on there. And everyone who was on that webinar have come back and said, thank you, how powerful it was, how life-changing it was. It was just amazing.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. You know, for the people that part of our inner circle community, and Lee's just doing an incredible job, just getting more and more powerful speakers to add value to our inner circle. But really, my point of why I brought it up was he said last night that wealth is one of the best ways to unlock your purpose, because ultimately, the more wealth you've got, the more impact you can have on the planet. And that's why the more passive income you've got, the more freedom fund. So I don't know if you're starting to understand this, but effectively, it's a 4-dimensional graph. And then on the inside, you've got 5 different paradigms. So you've got the pillars. You've got the purpose quotient, you've got the investment quotient, you've got the connected quotient, you've got the financial quotient, and you've got the systems quotient. And what this does is it builds a wheel for you. Now, what's important is you can't fail it, and you can't get it right, and you can't get it wrong. So I spoke to you that it's built already on the laws of nature, the I Ching, and the fundamentals. I'm not going to read it all to you. This is a 25-page report. Now, I often say to people, you need to understand that when you do this report, we are not a get-rich-quick scheme. In fact, I've got no interest in helping you get rich quick, because I know it's a load of BS. So what this is a deep dive. We're inviting you on a journey for the rest of your life. Okay, and so this is a comprehensive report. A lot of people told me to make this report shorter, and I said no, because I don't agree with it. Ultimately, this is a foundation, and it's really important you need to know it. So if you take the first pillar, which is the investment quotient, what you'll see is that depending on what you scored, let's just say you scored between 21 and 40, then you know that under mindset, you've got to go to this block, and under knowledge, you've got to go to this block. So it literally tells you what to do next, which books to read next, which courses to go on, which investments to look at. Now, I'm not giving you financial advice, but after 20 years of helping thousands and thousands of people from around the world, 133 countries to be exact, I would have to be an idiot not to be able to map and spot trends, which is why we've done this. So you go through the entire different report based on the 5 different pillars, and you can effectively, depending on what you scored, it'll tell you exactly what to do. And if you're a super wealthy person, as an example, set up a family office. Most people don't even know what a family office is, but the wealthiest of the wealthiest people have family offices, and that's how they create generational wealth. So now you can start to see how this all fits together in terms of it. So I'm not going to bore you with going through it all. You can see here the impact meter, the wealth spectrum that I've already spoken about. So it's all here, you know, collaborative smart investing, how it all fits together. If you don't know what that is, you should. And again, you've also got the 7 laws to investing. Now, it's really interesting because most people don't even know this. So under the financial quotient, you've got the 7 laws to investing. And there's so much information in here in terms of where people are. And so if I go back to it, And I said to step number one, it's take the test. It's pretty self-explanatory in terms of taking the test. Step number two is understanding the 5 pillars of wealth and your wealthy spectrum. So I've just been through the report with you, and I've shown you where you can get the information. So if you are weak in one of the paradigms, that's fine. It doesn't matter. Go and read all about it. Go and understand it. But most importantly, I don't believe that life is all about information. I heard something last week that's beautiful. There's plenty of information out there. All of us have access to ample information, but what we need is direction. And so what this is a personal path to wealth. Depending on where you are, it will give you the direction. And as I said to you, there's 5 pillars upon which wealth is built. Okay, now, if you do or don't know, the I Ching is built on energies, it's built on seasons, and there are specific energies and a matrix upon which the energies work. Now, I could spend probably a whole day, and Lee's head is probably spinning already, and I'm sure most of your heads are starting to spin already. So I could spend a day on this. I don't have time tonight to spend a day. And again, a lot of this is actually explained in that investor report that I've already said to you. But the first principle is that it starts with a 1. Now, you can see here, you got 1, and it's a what. So when it comes to investment, it's about your investment quotient. It's about your mindset and your knowledge. And the energy is wood. It's about growth. Okay. So you need to start with the what, like in terms of in the investment paradigm. I know we talk a lot about starting with the why, but in this case, it's the why, the purpose is the bigger picture. But ultimately, in terms of getting started as an investor, the number one thing is the what. What are you going to do? And that comes down to your investment quotient. And 80% of psychology is your head, and only 20% is execution. So it starts with your mindset and your knowledge. Number 2, and you can see from an energetic field, you've gone from a people and positive energy, etc., and now you've gone to a systems energy, like a steel energy, basically. So the energy is metal, and it's the how, and it's called the systems quotient. Every great person I've ever met that's been successful has a system. In fact, Dr. Heinrich Streyer said, making money is boring, and it was so interesting because he said, you just do the same thing over and over and over again, and you just keep making money over and over and over again. How do they do it? Systems. My uncle is a highly successful stockbroker. Same thing, he's got systems. That's why we built all our systems, like GIDS, the Global Investment Due Diligence System, so that you're not using your gut feel. You actually have systems, but they're personalized systems, and that's your how. Number 3 comes down to your people. Okay, so this is all about your people skill. It's your blaze energy, and it's your who. And you can see that the energy is fire. It's about excitement and growth, and it's all about collaboration and partnership. And it's your connected quotient. How connected are you? How many people are you adding value to in the world? How many people are adding value to you? How connected are you? Could you pick up a telephone and phone Donald Trump? I couldn't, which means that I'm not right up there on my connected quotient. And these things become pretty important. Number 4 is your when. So now it's the bottom left corner. It's all about numbers. It's all about detail, and it's all about numbers. And it's low risk as well. And your when is your financial quotient. It's all about financial investment and real estate. It's your energy is your earth. It's your grounding. Your why is up in the clouds. It's the big picture. The earth is all about your grounding. It's about keeping your feet on the ground. It's about timing and knowing what to do. And that's your FQ. Sorry, I didn't say that. You've got your IQ, your SQ, your CQ, your FQ, and then finally you've got your PQ, which is your purpose quotient, and it's your why, and it's your bigger picture purpose. And ultimately, people make money, but what really drives them is their purpose and their legacy, and how can they have an impact on the planet. And the energy is water, and what's interesting with water is that it just morphs into any, going down a river. It goes around the rocks, it goes over the rocks, but ultimately it wears down the rocks as well. And ultimately you bring all 5 of these together and it creates your WQ, which is ultimately it helps you achieve the wealth you want in your life. And the energy in the middle is actually spirit. It's who we are. It's the energy which we bring to this planet. So Lee, I don't know if you've ever seen me explain this before, and again, I could go into a lot more detail, but any comments or thoughts on this, just in terms of these 5 pillars to wealth and how they come together to form your WQ?
When I did the investor test, mine was anything but a circle, my wheel. it had a lot of sharp, pointy bits on it. So I am going around like a carriage with a mule at the moment. And you were right. It is quite mind-blowing in that, and I know you could spend absolutely an entire session on every single one of those. But that report that you do get after doing the investor test is very comprehensive and gives you a whole lot of information. And I would really encourage everyone on this course to do that test and share it with other people, to do the test and actually understand where you are in your investor journey.
Just in my interest, thank you very much, Lee. At the top, you can see WealthE with an E. And people say, what does the E stand for? And I say education, electronic, empowered, engaged, exponential, and enlightened. Whatever resonates with you, your personalized plan to wealth. So I'm not going to spend too much more time tonight on this because it's all in the report, which then brings me to step 3, which is your WealthE journey. So once you've done your report and you know where you are, you now need to plan where you want to get to. So just think of it always as the GPS. And so what's really interesting in terms of your WealthE journey is that something that I did, and believe it or not, and Lee's never seen this, well, actually she might have if she's done the micro degree, but this is a slide that I built in 2007. So I apologize for the quality of the slide, but what it basically did was on the left-hand side, you can see the learning curve. And at the bottom, you can see financial independence, freedom, and abundance. And I remember I've been teaching people to invest in property since since 1999. And what's interesting is that I said that the life cycle of a property investor is almost exactly the same as the life cycle of a human, because you've got birth, you've got infancy, you've got toddler, you've got teenager, you've got young adult, you've got maturity, you've got midlife evaluation. If you go the right way, you've got golden years, and then you've got legacy. If you go the wrong way, you've got aging and you've got death. You get to choose which way your graph goes towards the middle and the end. And so what's interesting is that if you take that from a property perspective, your birth is when you leave home, you start renting, you start earning and can save a little, you go on a course, you start walking the streets. Most do very little other than party. Your infancy is when you start and you buy your first house and you have plenty of fear, you're struggling with the purchase, you're struggling with understanding the process, you waste lots of money, you often don't buy very well, depends on the information. You're very close to cash flow death, tough to survive, and often ask for support from parents. You want to resonate with that? Just a tad. A toddler is when your first one is working and you get some confidence and buy another house. Pardon?
I said that's absolutely hysterical. I think every single one of us can relate to that, especially the last point, going back to the parents and saying, hey, can I have a loan?
Well, as you joke, and I know you're a mother, Lee, as I'm a dad, you know, when our children think we're so clever, we have been through it ourselves. So as a toddler, your first one is working and you get some confidence and buy another one. You've got no systems, you have cash flow issues, you've got less than 5 properties, focus on capital growth. I talk all the time about middle-class people focusing on capital growth, and you've got no structures in place. As you become a teenager, you focus on getting finance, you focus on cash flow, you attend courses, you build business plans, you think laterally to succeed, you meet tax and structuring experts, you start building a team, you start exploring international property and or commercial property. As you become a young adult, you start to use your capital growth, you buy your first international property, you buy your first commercial property, you have it all in structures, you keep buying properties, but only for cash flow. You have a working formula which you continue to replicate, and you have a team of people. You get to decide once you go to maturity, the banks view you as a sophisticated investor, you can leverage your assets to gain more properties, you have a reliable team, the deals come to you, there's great cash flow, time consuming with individual investments, and you look at doing bigger deals in consortiums. You're starting to see why we created WealthE Migrate. Then you have a midlife evaluation, it's becoming very time consuming and you wonder if you should sell and consolidate. You've got great cash flow, you maintain what you have or you move to aging. And or you move to golden years. So it's a vexing point. If you go to the golden years, which is the zone of knowledge and wealth creation, you're investing globally with the best of breed partners to achieve maximum results. You need to work with younger, energetic players. You need to leverage knowledge and assets, resources to take opportunity, take advantage of opportunity. And I just had an example there of an 84-year-old who was investing with me many, many years ago, invested $100 million, but he let me do all the work. 100 million Rand, which was at the time $10 million. We let me do all the work. And that was a good example of me having energy and him having money. And then you've got your legacy, which is your zone of fulfillment and contribution. And you live in financial freedom, you contribute to society, and you pass on your inheritance to people close to you, which is called generational wealth. If you go the other way, aging, most of your mortgages are interest only. You can't remortgage. You have to start selling off your assets. So basically living off your capital, because ultimately you need the cash flow. And that's why sometimes people go from toddler straight to aging. And then, you go to death, which is property is passed on in your personal name to people in the will. Large death duties left to those who receive the property, often can't afford and sell. And I used the Macintoshes, which was my family that owned 50% of the buildings on Hill Street, which was the main street in Durban. And when, their father, when he passed away, he didn't have estate planning, and they lost the entire wealth because of bad estate planning. So my question quickly, Lee, and I'm putting you on the spot tonight, and I'm having a bit of fun doing this. And the reason I'm doing it is because no one's ever seen this before. I've never presented this, not for more than a decade. Don't you find, what are your thoughts in terms of the correlation of this graph that was built in 2007 and what we built with Wealth Migrate many years later?
It's absolutely uncanny that you have been doing this for as long as you have been doing it, and you saw the vision then. I mean, and literally people can jump from birth to, did you say golden years? Is that what you called it? Where you can partner with people?
Yeah. Well, this is where you want to be, your golden years, yeah.
Yeah.
So your golden years and your zone of fulfillment and contribution, your legacy.
Absolutely. It is amazing that this is that life
we all
cycle
get to choose. Now remember, I spoke to you about having the laws of nature. You'll be, when you study this thing a lot, I've spent 20 years of my life studying it, you'll be amazed at the correlations and the patterns between the laws of nature, as in the laws of us growing up as people and aging and dying, and the laws of an investor. I don't know if you find this intrigue I do with the parallels. And the fastest way to succeed is through information and having the right partners. It comes down to your team. That's the way that you accelerate it. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And again, what's really interesting is that, and I jumped the gun on what Lee just said, but actually we can help people literally traverse right through the entire spectrum a lot quicker. And that's where things like our inner circle and the platform through Wealth Migrate allow people to not have to go through the learning curve all on their own, but to be able to traverse that curve a lot quicker and get to the end destination. Another thing that's interesting, and again, a terrible slide, but I wanted to share it with you because it hasn't changed in more than a decade. So this was before the last crash, by the way, 2007. Ian Fife, who was the editor of the Financial Mail, literally wrote this to me. He said, how do you deal with this uncertainty? Through knowledge, by concentrating on the actual realities of the market we operate in. An index is a theoretical figure. A transaction is concrete and specific. If you know how a property actually works, we know that it remains the biggest store of wealth in the world for ordinary people. That is not because it remains the most predictable, and that is so because it remains the most predictable and conservative of asset classes, and it's more often than not home to. Fascinating. So for me, what's really interesting is that we live in a time of great uncertainty, and Ian Fife actually said this, and one of the things that I took away is that a lot of people come to me right now and they go, Brexit, is it a good thing, is it a bad thing? Oh, Trump, is the US dollar going to crash? And what Ian Fife said is you cannot predict what's going to happen in a year's time. You can only predict and figure out what's happening today. And if you can manage the variables and it's a good deal today, then ultimately it's going to set you up for life. And so what happens is I've given you the whole life cycle, but what you now need to do is go and choose. And so I've got an entire goal planning system, okay, and I think I'm going to share it with you quickly. How am I doing for time, Lee? What's the time? Sorry, I can't see my watch.
We're on the half an hour.
Okay, so I get excited in these things. So let me go through my goal planning system. And so these, if you do the micro degree, you'll get access to all these systems. I don't really care what they look like, and one day hopefully we'll build them into a fancy, app or something. But at the moment they're just spreadsheets. But you can see that there's 7 pillars here. You've got your financial, you've got your vocational, you've got your mental, you've got your family, you've got your social and travel, your physical and health, and your spiritual and contribution. So if you go to any one of them, the financial, you can see that I did this back when I was 27 years old. And I did it, and I basically mapped out my life, and I mapped it right out till when I was 60. At the time, when you're 27, 60 is like you practically dead. So I'm going to have to add on a few extra columns, clearly. But what I did is it's a beautiful tool that Tony Robbins has called Awaken the Giant, and you just basically write anything down. Like you just take time and you just brainstorm, and nothing is out of your reach. Like you'll see down here under financial, it's like own a helicopter, or let me go back to financial. It's like own a helicopter, own a jet, list a company, you know, etc., etc., etc. Where's it gone? I'll just show you here quickly so you can see what I mean. These are all the businesses: be a billionaire, have 20 businesses, take a company public, you know, give a lot to charity. Anyway, you can see it. You can see that. Now, it's not right or wrong. This is just me. And so I wanted to be financially independent by the time I was 40. And these are all the things that I set. And then what I do is I go and I track it every single year. So every year I go back and I look at my annual goals. Okay, if you look at my vocational, you know, you can, that's all around your life and you know, your what you do in your business. And you can see here that, you know, one of them that I actually added was meet Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. I added both of them this year because I didn't have them originally, but I would like to meet both of them. I've obviously wanted to meet Richard Branson, and I've had the privilege of spending 2 weeks on Neck Island. Actually, this picture behind me here with Richard Branson. Now, again, I'm not boasting, but you go through the 7 different areas of life, and you just brainstorm. Like, where do you want to be? What is a life of magnificence? You know, one of the famous painters, and I think it was Da Vinci, I can't remember, but he said he dreams his painting and then he paints his dream. This is exactly it. You're going to dream your life, and then you're going to create your life. You know, there's another thing I took away today. Sorry, and I'm feeling all inspirational today. I heard just this morning, abracadabra in Arabic actually stands for I create what I speak. Amazing, isn't it? So be careful what you say. My father always said that men become what they think. And, you know, so ultimately, whatever your thoughts are is what you become. And so what's interesting is that this exercise takes a lot of time when you do it the first time. You can imagine how long this took me. I'm going to give you the template so you can literally copy them, but you can't copy my goals because my goals are my goals, they're not your goals. I'm happy to inspire you, but you need to go away and do your own goals. Then effectively, you got your SMART goals. Now, your SMART goals stand for specific, measurable, attainable, results-based, and time-based. And you can basically see here that I've got my weekly breakdown, I've got my monthly breakdown, I've got my weekly plan. So it's really critical that you plan out your week. And you know, as a matter of interest, Lee, you know, are these just little pretty spreadsheets that I do, or am I pretty fanatical about things like family time and stuff? You know, is it very easy to get me in a meeting, you know, between 5 and 8? Even tonight, where we started at 7, is it easy for these things to happen?
No, it's you pretty much stick to your goals and your weekly plans. It's very hard to get you out of those. We beg and plead on knees, elbows. It's hard.
And I'm not. It's every person should have it. It's about structuring your life, and then you basically go into. Sorry.
I was just going to say it's about living your most balanced life. So that you have parts of everything, and the times that you have with your family, with your friends, all of that should not be negotiable. So you are completely right.
Yeah, it's the big ones. So anyways, you got the financial. I also do a financial analysis. So every year I plan out the year and what I want to earn, how I'm going to earn it, and the full breakdown in terms of, you know, what I expect. And then it's the same thing, vocational, etc. But you can see that I break it down into the quarter. And then finally, you've got your 49-day Q1 targets. And I'm actually been a bit naughty this year because I haven't actually done it in Q2 and Q3. So even, you know, none of us are perfect. But what I basically do is every quarter I go through and I set up all my goals. So you can see here that the graphs give you where you're at based on your wheel of life and your performance. You can see, like Lee said, I'm out of balance. Generally, you're always out of balance. There's no such thing as balance. In fact, balance is BS, because in life, you're always going to be focusing on certain things, and certain things are going to have a backstop. You can see here that these are my top goals for the quarter. And then ultimately, again, I break it down into financial, vocational, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the last thing that I wanted to show you is that I also create a vision board. And so this is on my desktop, and it should work. Yep. So on my desktop, so all this work then culminates into one picture. And you can see here, there's a picture in the, I don't know why my little mouse, where's my mouse gone now? Okay, it doesn't matter. I can't show you my mouse. But anyway, you can see my goals in my top left corner. You can see my quarterly goals in my top right corner. You can see a poem that I love. You can see my family, my son, digital marketing. You can see that I want to spend more time meditating. Purpose with Bongi, building multiple revenue streams. I love the quote from Steve Jobs. It reminds me of home, and my personal mission statement. And that, just by the way, is on my it's on my desktop. So I actually see that every single day in terms of where we're at. So if you think I'm absolutely crazy, you've now officially got that confirmed for yourself. And these documents and everything are available to you so that you can go through and actually create your life. Because remember, like your GPS, is that the investor test helps you know where you are. What this is doing is helping know where you want to get to. If you want to fly to Johannesburg, or if you want to fly to London, or if you want to fly to Sydney, it's a very different, path. You need a very different plane. If you're flying to Johannesburg, you need a different plane from if you're flying to London. And so you need to decide. That's why your goals get clarity on where you want to get to. And whether it's rubbish or not, there's plenty of things that are out there. Tony Robbins talks about it, where there was this Harvard study done where, like 50 years ago, they did a study on the top MBAs, or sorry, all the MBAs of the year out of Harvard. And then they came back like 30 years later to track how they'd done. And they could only really track money, because it was the only thing that was measurable. And of the people that wrote down, of the people that had no goals, they had less than 1% of the wealth. Okay, so people that had no goals had less than 1% of the wealth. The people that had goals but hadn't written them down had another 2% of the wealth. So that's 3% of the wealth overall. And the people that wrote down their goals, which was a mere 3%, by the way, had 97% of the wealth. Okay, like this is statistical, this is factual. If you're not writing down your goals, it's your number one problem that you've got, because you don't know where you're going. I use the metaphor all the time of climbing a mountain. You could climb Table Mountain, you could climb Kilimanjaro. They're two very different mountains. But if you don't know what mountain you're climbing, and you don't know what the top of the mountain looks like, you're going to walk around and around the base. So step 3 is getting clear on where you're getting to. Now, let's use the metaphor of Kilimanjaro. I've climbed Kilimanjaro. There's many different ways up Kilimanjaro. So there's not one way to be successful in your life. But if you get clear on what success looks like for you, and remember that life is not a destination, it's a journey. So think of it more like milestones that you're trying to achieve, which is why I've given you all those different skills. Time for step 4. Now, when you've decided where you want to get to, you need to ultimately create your flight path. Now, not everyone wants to be a billionaire like I do. Not everyone wants to donate money to, massive amounts of money to charity. Not everyone wants to have a massively purposeful impact on the planet. Not everyone wants to own a plane and a helicopter. In fact, my mother says that myself owning a helicopter is extravagant. She did tell me that having a cell phone in '99 was equally extravagant. But anyway, hopefully one day it'll be as easy to buy a helicopter for me as it was buying a cell phone. Sorry, a little went off track there a little. But anyway, when it comes to your flight plan, you need to now decide. So if you're flying to London, or if you're flying to Johannesburg, they're two very different things, and that's ultimately going to be part of your preparation. So again, when you do the micro degree, there's actually a pre-flight checklist. And what's important is that if you're a first-time investor, then you need to do the first-time investor micro degree, and we've actually got a white paper on the 5 things you need to know to create wealth in real estate. If you're an intermediate investor or an advanced investor, then you need to do the I can't remember the exact white paper, but it's the 5 laws to investing offshore. And again, Lee's got some good news later where we can let you know how you can get access to these white papers. And if you're highly sophisticated and you want to build a global portfolio, then we've got the white paper on. And again, just by the way, if you were interested in me creating these micro degrees, I haven't created them yet for first-time advanced and sophisticated. I just haven't got around to it. But if you think there's a demand, then type it in the box, and I'll if I get crowd support, I might just go ahead and do it. But for now, we've got white papers and everything else. And ultimately, once you understand where you're going, then you need to have a checklist. And so now think of it like your GPS. You know where you are, you know where you want to get to. You now have a plan, and this is your plan. But you haven't taken off yet. You're still sitting on the runway. Okay. Now it's time to take off. It's time to press the acceleration. And so for me, what's really interesting in terms of getting started is that most people, this is where they stop. It's called analysis paralysis. They go on a load of courses, they read another book, they talk to their mate, they talk to their financial planner, and they don't do anything. And what's fascinating for me is that something I came up with, and maybe it was inspirational in India, but while I was lying in bed in India, I suddenly thought of the word why. The big picture of life is your why. And, it actually, if you spell it, it's what and how. And then it finishes with the letter Y for yes. And the point is that you can have the biggest dreams and aspirations in the world, but unless you say yes and actually do something, unless you take action, you're never going to get results, basically. And so, step 5, as simple as it sounds, is you actually have to get started. You can read every book in the world you want on swimming, but until you jump into the swimming pool, you're never going to learn to swim. An even better metaphor is that every single one of you learned to walk. And the question I ask is, was it easy? Did you stand up and fall over? Or did you stand up and walk the very first time? And if you're honest with yourself, you stood up, you fell over. You stood up, you fell over. You crawled, you fell over. And that's what investing is all about. Okay, so you are going to make mistakes, so stop worrying about it. Okay, but that's why we've got things like the WealthE University. That's why we've got things like the Inner Circle. That's why whether you're investing in your first house or you're investing in your first commercial property overseas, I don't care if you own 100 properties and commercial buildings in your country. When you invest overseas, you're going to be nervous. It's the same feelings every time. Trust me, I've done it on 4 continents. I know that it's the same every single time I invest, and that's what it is all about, getting started. And as part of our Inner Circle, something that we're excited to be launching soon is where people will have a $100 voucher where they can actually get started and look to participate. So only one person wants the micro degree. So Susan, I'll give you a private coaching. For everyone else, I won't be sharing it with you because only Susan wants the micro degree. So, but anyway, point 5 is get started. I think it's self-explanatory. And I always say to people, for me, it's all about becoming a global investor. You need to get started. In fact, I was talking to a guy today around, we were talking about goals actually, and just in my interest, I don't know, Lee, if you'd be prepared to share, but do you and Derek have an idea, and if you don't want to share, I'm happy if you tell me, but do you have an idea of what passive income you would then consider yourself financially independent?
So yes, we actually have this discussion a lot, especially with our youngest about to hit university in the UK in a couple of weeks' time. And so we have this discussion quite a lot. And we have settled on that we would be happy with, once the kids are educated and free, that we would be very happy with $20,000 a month coming into us after all our expenses and that have been covered.
Okay, so that's quite interesting. So $20,000. So that's called passive income. And as a interest, do you know how much capital you need to do that?
No, but I'm sure that if Derek was on here, he'd be saying, check the spreadsheet, babe, because he's the spreadsheet king, and he would have it nailed down. But no, I'm sure you're going to scare the crap out of me right now and tell me how much, right?
Just very quickly. Yeah, just very quickly. So I just want to do this for everyone else's purposes, because remember, if you get clear on what you want in life, then it gets much easier to make it happen than if it's just like, I need to save money, because you're not future-proofing yourself. So they want to get to 20,000. Okay. Now, it doesn't matter, just mine's 15,000. And again, I want to earn a hell of a lot more than that. In fact, at a very young age, I made it 100,000 pounds. But my point being is that 15,000 for me is the minimum where I believe that you can live comfortably in, the UAE, which is where you are, Lee, or Australia or England. Now, you're not going to live like a rock star, but you're certainly not going to be living under a thing. But let's work on 20, because you said 20. So if you take 20 and you times it by 12, because there's 12 months in a year, you're effectively going to require $240,000. I presume everyone can see my screen. I'll make it nice and big so that everyone can see. You with me? I'm not going to bother with doing all fancy formatting and stuff. I just want you to get an idea of the maths. Now, on average, our deals are yielding an 8% cash-on-cash return per year. Would you agree with me on that, Lee?
Yep.
So if you invest in our deals and you need $240,000 a year, you would basically need $3 million. And if you had $3 million in capital today, it would be at an 8% return per year. It would be paying you $20,000 a month.
Right. So I shout out to Derek now, who I know is online, that he needs to get a 3rd, 4th, and 5th job. I'm only joking.
Well, no, and that's not the point. So I ironically had a one-to-one today with an investor, and that's what happens to everyone. they have a panic attack the first time they see that number. But what's interesting is that when you get clear on the number, many years ago I got clear on buying an SLK, and then I bought an SLK. I got clear on the boat I wanted, and it just turned up. I find it in life, when you get very clear on what you want, you find a way to make it happen. And the other thing that's really important is that if you reinvest and compound growth, Einstein said that compound growth is the eighth wonder of the world. And so when people think of $3 million, they think, oh, sheesh, where am I ever going to find $3 million? But you'll be surprised that if you have the tenacity and the commitment, in fact, we did the maths, and I don't have the slide here, but we've got it as part of that inner circle training where you do the portfolio analysis. And if you take one of our deals, if you invested $1,000 a month, taking into account the returns and reinvesting the dividends and the capital over, I think it was a 15-year period, you actually got to like $2.7 million. So now, Lee, let's take that a different way, and let's get a little bit more aggressive and say, right, could you do $1,500 a month investment, and that would get you on or around your $3 million, and probably above that. And now, does that look like have we chunked that elephant that it becomes a little bit more reasonable?
That's exactly it. And it is that elephant story. And how do you eat it? One bite at a time. And once you break it down, it's not that scary monster anymore.
So I'm not doing financial planning, and I'm not giving you financial advice, but what I'm showing people is quickly how you can do the maths and how very quickly you can actually create a financial plan for yourself that helps you get a lot more committed. Now the question comes. So you got started, and Lee and Derek have committed to their $1,500 a month, and they start to invest. They know where they are, they know where they want to get to, they know what the outcome is, and they even know what their plan is. So they set off in the airplane and they leave. They're in Saudi Arabia, so they leave Saudi, and they start flying towards London. Now, I'm not a pilot, but apparently, according to pilots, almost all the time a plane is course corrected because it's consistently going off track and it's consistently being brought back on track. And so you've got all those dashboards and those dials which are consistently course correcting you, because if Lee and Derek took off from Saudi and they wanted to get to London, but they weren't course correcting, they might end up in Moscow. And what's really interesting is that you can literally be 1 degree out, but 1 degree consistently actually becomes a very wide gap. And so what becomes really, really important is to track your process. Now, I talk about a family office, and if the wealthiest people in the world have a family office, then why don't you? And you're going to say, well, I'm not the wealthiest people in the world. And I say, well, if you're not the wealthiest people in the world, but you don't model wealthy people, then are you ever going to become wealthy? And so I've got a financial controller, and she basically effectively is a family office. She runs all my financial affairs. And every single month, I get her to go in and do my financial analysis. So I set this up at the beginning of the year, if you remember. So here's my financial analysis. So I don't know why my laptop's playing games tonight, but you can see my financial analysis. Now, what's more important, and this I do live, so I won't. This becomes very important for me. If you go into financial and you go into August and you go into DV, which stands for Debbie Vernon Smart Goals, if you would like my financial controller's details, I keep telling her that she should be doing this on an outsourced basis for everybody else, but she then goes in and she actually gives me my budgets to my actuals. So you can see exactly where I stand, budgets to actuals. I'm not going to show you all my personal numbers, but you can see that I've done it every month, and every month I get my financial report, and I know where I'm on track, both on my income and on my expenses side, and I've got full clarity. So we run our personal life like a business, and we get a full breakdown. In fact, I'm showing you live here, so I'm not hiding anything. You can see our income versus, this is the month of August, and you can see down here, it's financial, and it's August, and it's 2019. You can see our income versus our expenses. You can see the breakdown. You can see our budgets to our actuals. You can see our pocket money expenses, our medical, our groceries. So if anything's over in terms of budgets to actuals, then I want to actually see the detail of where we're spending our money. So, just in my interest, Lee, and for anyone else, you can type it in. What are your thoughts on the tracking that I've just shared? Is what I'm showing you what everyone else is doing this? Or is what I'm doing normal, or is this abnormal in terms of what I'm talking about with tracking progress?
It's absolutely normal. We track it. every month. We also use an app on our phones that every time we go and buy something or do something, and money goes out of our cards, we quickly enter it onto our phones, and that tracks back to a web page worksheet that you've got as well. So yeah, I think in this day and age, with how much things cost and how quickly it is to just lose sight of where you are, you've got to be tracking. We've got a whole lot of people.
And what's also important, you can see down the bottom here.
I do it. It's very impressive. I also do it. It's very normal. Yeah.
So my point is that I've given everyone all the templates. It's in the micro degree. We'll share with you how you can get the micro degree. And what's interesting is that we track all our expenses. We also track our investments. We track our tithing, and then I like to work out our percentage of our investments over our cash burn. So everything I've been talking about tonight is just using me as a guinea pig. But ultimately, it's what you should be doing in terms of who you are and what you're doing. So I just wanted to share this with you. Because again, think of the metaphor. If you're on an aeroplane and you're flying from anywhere, Johannesburg to London, if you're not consistently checking your progress, and I do it on a monthly basis, then you're going to end up not where you want to be. So you might end up you might want to get to London, but you might end up in Lagos or something. Maybe that's a good metaphor for your financial life. And anyway, and then what's also the last thing I would say around tracking, which I think is important, is that just as a tooltip, is that Lyndon Booth is using Xero, which is an accounting system. It sucks all your bank statements in. So if you don't want to pay a financial controller or whatever, I hate admin. But if you do want to do it yourself, Xero is a very cost-effective way of doing it, where you can actually manage it. It's an online accounting system, and you can manage it and do it all yourself. And literally, you've got all my spreadsheets. You can just copy them. Step 7: follow the laws of nature. So this is a really interesting one, and I gave you the life cycle of an investor. And the most interesting thing for me is that I meet wealthy people all the time, and they're like, oh, I've got a whole bunch of buildings, I own a bunch of commercial properties, I don't want to do anything with other people. Well, what I find fascinating is that the bird flying in a flock can fly 70% further than the bird flying on its own. So I said this today on the previous webinar, the earlier webinar. If someone comes to me and they've got $10 million, like that gentleman I told you was 84 years old, and they say, listen, I want to buy a building. I say, you're absolutely crazy to buy a building on your own. And there's a number of reasons. One is that $10 million actually is not a lot of money. Okay, in the big picture of things, and Brendan said it on a webinar this morning, you need to be doing like $70 million deals and up to really be able to get out of the rats and mice and therefore be attracting great deals. And so most people don't have the capital to even participate. Even if they do have the capital, it makes no sense to put all your money in one building. You need to be diversifying across assets, countries, currencies, and even buildings, and even partners. And so what's important is that, I would say to someone, if they had $10 million, I'd say put $1 million in 10 buildings, and in different countries across different asset classes and different currencies. Now, in the old days, that was hell of a difficult, it was hell of time consuming, it was hell of expensive, and quite frankly, people didn't want the hassle. Now with the platform, it's easily accessible and it's easily possible. You can do it with $1,000, you can do it with $1 million. I don't believe that people have an excuse anymore. And the last thing is that when it comes to investing, most people around the world struggle to get mortgages now. Now, I don't care how sophisticated you are. If you don't live in America, you cannot get an American mortgage if you don't have a social security number. I've just tried to get a mortgage in England. I had exactly the same problem. Now, to put it in perspective, in England, I have been buying in England since 2002. I have a British passport. I've owned companies in England, and I could borrow at 6.5%. A British person that we partnered with could borrow, and we just got our mortgage fixed at 3.19% fixed for 5 years. It's a no-brainer. It's literally half the cost of capital. And so what we do is we partner with people, and I call it OPM, other people's mortgages. And this is the laws of nature. It's not trying to figure out how to do it all yourself. It's trying to figure out who to partner with so that you can leverage. It's trying to figure out how to make 1 + 1 = 3. It's trying to actually figure out how to make 1 + 1 = 11. And so the question is, who can you add value to? What value can you bring to the party? And you take someone like Mandy, based out of Durban. She's been an amazing partner. She brought us the SG properties, the very first medical building in Atlanta. All medical 1 to 7 all came through her. We're now bringing her good opportunities in London. She's bringing us good opportunities in London, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What value can you add to this community, and equally, what value can the community add back to you? That's the laws of nature, and it's such an important one. And step 8 is a really interesting one. So when I was living in London years ago, I met lots of South Africans, and they were trying to hoard their cash before they came home, and they would like sleep with candles and whatever. And I just don't believe that life is about that. You know, life is not a destination; it's a journey. And so step 8 is that don't waste, you know, all your money until you die. You know, I read that book, The 4-Hour Work Week, and although I've never figured out how to live, you know, and work for 4 hours a week, I definitely took away, my biggest takeaway from Tim Ferriss was that most people live and work their whole life to have enough money to retire to the beach. Well, as you know, or don't know, I live in Knysna, which is the #1 holiday town in my country. And I just decided, sod this. I'd lived for 9 years in London, 3 years in Johannesburg, and I was like, I want to go live at the beach. And I'm going to go live at the beach. I'm going to create a life to make it a reality. And I'm a big believer, as you probably heard all night, that anything is possible if you put your mind to it. And so how do you do it? And there's two people that I took a lot of value from. The one is Dr. Hannes Streyer, and the other one is Clem Santa. And both of them talk about the Mercedes principle. And ironically, it is so simple in terms of the breakdown. So if you earn $1,000, basically, okay, you really need to break it up into a third, a third, a third. So you take a third of your money and you break it up, and you can basically see you've got your surplus, your expenses, your passive income, and your assets. Okay, so you take your money, if you've got a surplus of $400, and you would break it up. You would take a third of it, you take a third of it, you put it into interest, and you take a third of it, and you put it into capital. And what's interesting is you can see effectively it would be 133, 133, 133. And what they would ultimately do is it would allow you to start building up assets. Okay, and if you know how a balance sheet and a P&L work, you don't really have to worry about it because that's below the line. And your assets deliver your passive income. But what this helps you do is in terms of your spending and what you're actually getting, is that it helps you come up with a way to live life so that you can have fun every day on the journey. You're not hoarding for the future, but you do have the discipline to know that you're taking a third of your money and you're investing it, a third of your money you're living off it, and you know, your day-to-day expenses, your school fees and whatever, and a third of your money and you're having fun. Now, you might decide that a third is wrong. Quite frankly, there's no right and there's no wrong. But ultimately, everything below the line is your assets and your passive income, and that's what you ultimately are trying to derive. Lee, any comments on what I've just shared here? Because this was one of the most defining things for me, that you can have fun, you can go on international holidays, you can buy a nice car, but what you ultimately want to be doing is building out your assets and your passive income that are then funding this lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it just all comes down to planning and having a clear goal and direction on where you want to go and how you're going to get there.
So we talk a lot about Wealth 5.0, and if you've been on the last couple of webinars, those are the 8 steps to creating wealth. If it was overwhelming for you, there is a micro degree. You can actually go to the micro degree. It's on Udemy, and you can actually do it. It's free in terms of the whole breakdown. So there's a lot more detail. There's about 3 hours worth of me going through, I think it's 15 different videos on all those different areas. In terms of preparing for the next decade, I believe it's all about Wealth 5.0. And you can see it's the exact same framework: impact, creativity, high touch, high tech, and digital. I don't have time tonight to talk about it, but this is something we're taking our community through within the inner circle so that they are prepared for the next decade. You know, I always joke with people, but in '99, my mom, you know, I've already told you, said that, you know, this cell phone was an extravagance. None of us can live without a cell phone now. In 2009, none of you used or heard of Uber or Airbnb. Now most of you can't live without it. And, you know, what do you think is going to happen in the next decade? And how prepared for you are you as an investor? Because everything I've just taught you tonight is the fundamental principles of investing. They didn't change 100 years ago, and they're not going to change 100 years from now. But then you've got to have the ability to overlay the fundamentals of investing with the big economic and people, what do you call them, people trends, social trends that are happening around the world, because that's how you ultimately get real leverage in terms of where we're going. So what excites me and the team? Well, it's ultimately what Nelson Mandela says: money won't create success, the freedom to make it will. And that's what we are trying to do for everyone. The question I've got for all of you: what are you going to do to be a global citizen? How ready are you for 2020? You know, if this has sparked some interest for you, well, just go and do your own research. Go on the internet. I don't care. Join the inner circle. Become an investor on Migrate. But do something to ensure that you are becoming a global citizen. There are live deals today. We're part of WealthE Wednesday. You know, go online. You can literally today invest on $1,000. You can invest in South African deals with an 18% return. You can invest in England deals with a 10% cash on cash return. You can invest in medical deals in America from an 8% cash on cash. We've got a brand new property that's just listed in multifamily, which is 827 units, which is with an amazing partner. They've raised $21 million, and we've managed to get the last piece of the capital stack, which is so exciting. And you can't invest with those guys unless you've got $1 million. And yet now you can invest through our platform from $1,000, which I just find truly, truly exciting. And Lee, if there's any links or anything that you want to share, please go wild. I'm not actually going to go to the platform tonight. What is our inner circle all about? So for me, our inner circle is probably something that I get the most excitement about. So you can basically go in, you can go to our Wealth University, and it's basically wealthuniversity.org, and you can go in, you can see all the different courses that we offer. And the inner circle is what I call the tipping point. What we found was that most people were too scared to get started. They wanted to be part of a community. And so we basically created the inner circle of like-minded people so that they could come together, they could learn together, they could grow together, they could invest together. It's literally, you know, as part of our WealthE Wednesday, we've got a 60% discount, so it's either $9 a month or $99 for the year. And there's literally 5 things. You're going to, you know, I believe that you're only as good as the 5 people you hang around with. And so, you know, who are you hanging around with? And you know, and this is about being in a world-class global growing community. Number 2 is that in the old days, it was all about going on a course and learning and then doing. I believe now it's all about learning while doing. You know, I'm amazed by the number of people online. Some people we've been working together for more than a decade because they've learned. You've got to be constantly learning. The third is that there's always a need for ongoing mentorship and coaching, and I get asked all the time, and that's why we created the inner circle so that people had a touch point. The fourth is about compressing time. I've just given you tonight in 1 hour what took me 20 years to learn, and I'm going to point you in the directions to get access to the best information. And number 5 is it's about inspiration. You know, at the end of the day, 80% of life success is psychology, and if you don't wake up in the morning inspired and every week, you know, then you got major problems. You can see all the different things that are included. I'm not going to bore you. You can actually go and read all about it. But there's quotes, there's WhatsApp groups, there's weekly wealth insights, there's, you know, webinars like the one last night that we got amazing feedback from. Really, I'm just incredible how much amazing feedback we got. And so to finish off, you know, the last thing that we wanted to share because it's WealthE Wednesday, is that we basically got our e-wealth pack. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to find that for you here quickly. Let me see if I can find it just very quickly. So we're going to stop sharing our e-wealth pack. We've decided, sorry, what's the link, Lee? Do you know what the link for the e-wealth pack is? Is it the other way around, Wealth University e-wealth pack? All right. So our e-wealth pack, it's worth about $5,000. We have been sharing this with people and giving it away. The feedback that we've had from people is it's just too much information. And so we're going to be stopping sharing this, but for you tonight on as part of the WealthE Wednesday, we will be sharing it. So you can see, go to wealthuniversity.org/e-wealth pack. I'm hoping Lee's putting all the links into the thing. You can join all our communities. You can get access to my book. You know, normally you got to pay for the stuff, but you can get it for free. Normally you got to pay $99 to do the investor test, but you can get it for free. The micro degree, again, normally you pay for it on Udemy, but you can get it for free. The Wealth in the Circle is normally $250, but you can get it for $99. And then you can see all the white papers that I spoke about earlier. And then, you know, people get asked me all the time about what are the best books I recommend. And you can see all the different books, both on real estate, life, investment, business, leadership, etc. There's a whole bunch of life hacks around websites, blog posts, you know, different products we use and courses. So people have told us it's a complete overwhelm. I apologize. I like to compress things and I try and add as much value as possible. So if you want the eWealth pack, just make sure you type in the eWealth pack and so that you can get access to it. Lee, anything I'm missing on everything I'm talking about here? I'm flying through it. I'm conscious of time, and I know there's lots of questions. People want to ask questions. But is there anything that I'm missing that you want to share with people?
No, I think you've covered it all. I have posted all the links in the chat box as we've been going along. I'd just like to let everyone know on the specific link that I posted that's outside of the eWealth pack for the inner circle. If if you click on that link, there is an option for you to book a one-on-one session with Scott. So if you would like that, that option is part of that inner circle link that I shared. Otherwise, you can get the general inner circle links through the eWealth pack, and you're welcome to reach out to me and I can provide any of the links or set you up with the link to book a session with Scott if you'd like to do that.
Yeah, so just to be clear, what Lee's talking about is that the inner circle is normally $250, and a one-to-one session with myself for 1 hour is normally $250. And so what we've done for WealthE Wednesday is that you can get both together. So you can get an annual subscription to the inner circle, and you can get a one-to-one session with myself. Now, why do I charge for my time? Because my time is very valuable, and so is yours. And when people pay, they pay attention. Quite frankly, I only want to deal with people that want to take their lives to the next level. I've got 20 years worth of experience. I love sharing it. I'm passionate about it, but I don't want to waste my time, and I certainly don't want to waste their time. And so there's a lot of tools and things that I would expect people to be using and going through so that they can take their life to the next level. So if, as Lee said, she's put the link in. By the way, if you're watching the recording, the links will be down below on the YouTube recording for you. Lee, it's question time. But I do need to be honest. I have been doing presentations all day, and I've probably drunk at least 7 liters of water. So I'm going to run quickly to the toilet, if you don't mind, just while we get into Q&A. I know it's a first for me, but I desperately need a toilet break. So just give me 2 seconds. You can answer any questions if you want. And please bring the questions through. This is the part I enjoy most. It's the Q&A with myself and Lee. Ask Scott anything. I always say that anyone can put a PowerPoint together. Any monkey can present it, but what I love is when you ask great questions and you test the resilience of what we know.
Okay, so yeah, it's, Scott has asked for you to put any of your questions. Patrick, I see your query on the discount code for the Udemy course. I will get you a new code through to you first thing tomorrow morning. It is a new code that's been put in there. Maybe they haven't pushed it to live just yet, but I will get that through to you so that you can do the course at no charge. If anyone else experiences the same problem that Patrick's experienced, please just reach out to me on leerush@wealthmigrate.com, and I'll send you a personal code that you can get into it.
Sorry about that, Lee. There's just no ways I could sit here. And I heard you giving out your details, so I'll go to the next slide. I'll go back to Q&A, but the slide's there for people that want to click on your details and also have the inner circle, etc. So let's get into some questions. Let's hope that there's some great questions here. I'd like some nice tricky ones to challenge the brain. Okay, so Marty said, very impressive. I also track, but not to this level of detail. This is an eye-opener. This monthly tracking spreadsheet keeps me aware. Well done, Paul. Can you please send me the download links to the Excel spreadsheets? Patrick, you need to do the micro degree. It's in the micro degree. Or I don't know, maybe if you ask Lee nicely, she can figure out a way to give it to you. But I mean, again, I'd suggest you do the stuff. eWealth pack, lots of people want. We'll make sure that everyone gets it. Boom, the discount code you spoke about. Can anyone, e.g. from New Zealand, invest in SA? Heidi, no. So if you're talking about the South African deal, you have to be a South African citizen, I think, to do the deal. It's got something to do with SARB, South African, the regulator. So if you're an expat and you've immigrated, I actually don't know, Lee, can you and Derek do it? As long as you've got a South African bank account, you are allowed to, aren't you?
Yeah, so it's not really about being a citizen. It's just that the money has to flow into a South African bank account. So as long as you've got one of those set up, then you're good to go.
Okay, Karina said, please can you also send it to me? I don't know, Karina, what you mean, but we will be showing the eWealth pack, etc. Dawn said, are we able to see it again?
They're talking about the code on the Udemy course seems to have expired. I'm just going to have to check up on that because it could have been pushed to live. So that's what they're all asking for.
It probably did because we set it to the end of the month, to be honest, when I did it. So and we've just gone over the end of the month. So Because I want to, you know, the idea is that these things, again, if people don't pay, they don't pay attention. So, you know, if you give stuff away for free, they take it as no value. Dawn asked, are we able to see this again? Yes, Dawn, we recorded and we'll share it. So we'll put it out on all our WhatsApp groups, and we'll also put it on our social media channels, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Lee, just need to get clear about the links to the inner circle. Will this be emailed to us?
Yes, Heidi, a copy of this recording will be sent through to you, and with that, you'll get all the different links.
Perfect. Marty asked, I'm a beginner. When Scott talks about the correct structures, do you refer to creating companies and offshore trusts before investing in property? Marty, that's the old way that you used to do it. So I don't know if you were on when I started with the life cycle of an investor, and I went through all the different stages in terms of setting up structures and everything. The beauty of investing through our platform is that actually all those structures are created for you. So we've taken a very complex situation and we've made it easy by using technology. In the same way as when you catch an Uber, think how complicated catching a taxi was in the past and how simplified Uber's done that, cutting out all the middlemen. We've done the same thing. So when it comes to tax and structuring and compliance and offshore, you know, structures and all that management and maintenance and all that, you know, those things that you had to take into account as an investor. Nowadays, you don't have to take that into account, basically. Okay, Heidi's saying she doesn't have an SA account. So then, Heidi, obviously, it would be better for you to focus on some of the offshore investment deals, you know, the ones in America, England. I mean, the 10% cash on cash in England is a really good deal. You know, I've you know, that's, you know, it's in the aged care sector. The medical deals in America are really good deals. The multifamily that's going live is a very good deal. So there's lots of good deals on the platform now. And quite frankly, when my brother phones me and says, Scott, which one do you think I should put my money in? I don't think that any one deal is better than necessarily other deals. What I've learned over time is everything I've tried to share tonight is it's about consistency. So what's important is rather putting in some money into multiple deals and actually building a global platform, a global portfolio. Right. Let's look at the time. It's 8:15. Has anyone got any tricky questions or any questions? You know, the only stupid question is the one unasked. We are live here. I'll stay online for a couple more minutes. And, you know, I've shared a huge amount of information tonight. Is there anything that didn't make sense in terms of the 8 steps to wealth? Again, you know, what's interesting for me when I take the 8 steps, a lot of people sometimes think, well, that sounds too good to be true, or it sounds too easy. And often in life, the most complicated things, the ultimate sophistication is simplicity. I don't know if you've heard that before, Lee. But you know, really what we're trying to do is take quite complicated stuff and make it simple.
Yeah, it's that whole thing about learning through other people and what they've already gone through. And that's exactly what we're trying to do with all these different aspects and the inner circle. Collective learning always happens faster. You have that great saying about collective learning, Scott. But if you...
Yeah, well, I mean, I said it last night, but Deepak, I just heard it recently, Deepak Chakra, where if you try and do something on your own, you've got less than a 50% chance of succeeding. If you do it with a partner, a husband, a wife, a friend, you've got a 60% chance of succeeding. Whereas if you do it in a like-minded community, even better, a mastermind, you've got a higher than 70% chance of succeeding. And so that's, you know, really quite exciting. Heidi's asked, can someone help her with the physical address of where the money goes to, because the New Zealand authorities required, etc. We certainly can, Heidi. You've got Lee's details there on the screen, and between Lee and one of my colleagues, Alex, we can definitely reach out to you and help us. I was talking to a guy today, you know, as much as we embrace digital and love digital, people still like to deal with humans, and we're very much a human company with human face. You know? Ken, you've asked about the progress of the currency wallets. We are super excited to let you know that we got 2 contracts yesterday. Today is Wednesday. Yeah, yesterday. One from Europe and one from Hong Kong. And so that's very much a go at the moment. And, you know, we're in the final stages now of finalizing all those deals and getting them up on the platform. So, you know, I don't want to give you a date because I don't know, but the ball it's really starting to move now in terms of momentum, which is fantastic. How often should I take the investor test? That's a good question, Karina. There's no right or wrong. Probably once a year. I don't know. Depends on how much progress you make. When you feel that you want to know what the next stage is. What's probably quite interesting with the investor test is that if you know where you are and you make progress along it, you can probably just progress along the 5 different areas, because again, it's like following a GPS. So there's no right and there's no wrong. It's your own personalized path to wealth. You get to decide how you want to do it. I had invested in the platform before when it launched with Roger Hamilton, but lost track of my investments. Do you know how I can resolve? So Dawn, yes, you invested in the e-resorts deal, and we basically got the legacy platform, which is version 4 of the platform, and we are porting all the information over at the moment into version 5. So if you're an old investor like me, you can effectively go into version 4 and you can see your portfolio, and we are porting all that information over into version 5. And as you know, we're actually launching our 3rd deal, Genius U, with Roger Hamilton at the moment. So it's a big focus for the tech team to be able to allow it and see it all in one place for people. Francis says, when one has a global portfolio using the investments on the Wealth Migrate platform, do you need to set up a will in every country in which you've invested? Good question. And Francis, I'm not a tax attorney, and I'm certainly not an estate duty attorney. So I would go and ask a lawyer. However, if you ask a lawyer whether you should have a will in every country, I virtually guarantee you they'll say yes, because they like to charge you for it. My understanding is that the primary thing for a will is that you need a will in the country where you are based, where your residency is. And then the rest of your estate will be wound up, your investments around the world. Now, Lee, you are a legal person who has a lot more experience than me. Is that wrong, or would you change it or say it differently?
No, I think that you are probably correct. The place where you live the most often is the place where you need your will. So us living in the Middle East, we needed to get an international will to cover us, even though we had a South African will for our assets and that was still in South Africa. So everyone's case, though, is different, and it depends how you have set up your finances, your investment structures and everything. So reach out to someone who can give you that proper advice within the area that you are living in. That would be what I would say to everybody.
Thank you, Lee. Paul asked a question here. What do you think will happen to retail property with footfall dropping for many? Paul, what's quite interesting, actually, I'm going to share with you quickly on my, I'm going to share with you something. So let me see if I can open up. I'm going to bring up another slide quickly just to answer this. So I did a webinar last week with Ann Wilson, and I think I've got it open. Yes, I do. And what was quite interesting is I talk a lot about the mistakes of investing that people make. There was your portfolio. Just by the way, this was what I was talking about with at $1,000 per month. And on this particular deal over 15 years, you'd have $2 million. And on this one, you would have $3 million. So Lee, your and Derek's, $3 million is actually not as far away and unreachable as people think, because that was one deal at $1,000 a month over 15 years. Right, where is the slide that I'm looking for? Here we are. So this is what you're asking, Paul. And, I always tell the story. I was on an airplane about a year ago, probably now, and I was flying in South Africa, and I asked the lady what she does, and she said she does retail shopping centers. I said, are you not worried about the fact that they're going bankrupt all over America because of Amazon and other e-commerce? And she said, no, that'll never happen in Africa. And I was like, are you serious? Like, literally, when we were riding Volkswagens, Henry Ford's cars, and that never turned up. And what was interesting is that I've been saying this for more than a year in presentations, and then literally 2 weeks ago, this article came out where the South African investors will be hurting, where the largest property company in the UK has lost 30% of its value. And for those South Africans, you'll recognize all these names who have invested: Coronation, the PRC, Sanlam, Investec, Old Mutual, Stanley, and PSG. And it's really, really interesting because they've all invested in shopping centers. And when you read the article, it's literally that the footfall's going down. So I'm a very big believer when it comes to investing that you need to be very careful of long-term trends. I certainly wouldn't be buying a a parking garage with autonomous cars coming and you know, self-driving cars and everything else. And I always tend to joke with people based on the slide I just showed you with coronation. As long as you can put an ad in the airport, you know, don't worry, then you can be trusted. And my point is, it's not about that. It's about the long-term fundamentals. And maybe some of their team at Coronation should do the 8 steps to wealth through real estate micro degree. Is that a little bit offsides, Lee?
No, it's all good.
Right, I've just got to go back to finding my presentation. Where's it gone now? What did I call it? Right, WealthE there. So let's just go back. Are there any other questions? Sorry, I lost my questions when I went to go and do that one.
Yeah, we've got one. Do you need to put each investment into an SPV, and how does it work with regards to tax on your returns in each country?
Yeah, so Dawn, no, you don't have to put each investment in SPV. We actually, so each property that you invest in actually is already in an SPV, and then you're investing directly in that. So this is why it becomes really easy through the platform. And in terms of how does it work with regards to tax on the returns in each country, so each SPV in each country will then pay the tax on the ground. When you see the return, it's a net return, net of tax, so it's the cash on cash, it's the return you receive in your pocket, and then you would just be liable to pay the tax based on where you're a tax resident, which obviously is your own choice. Vladimir said to me, I said, yeah, thank you for a great presentation. I would be interested about your opinion on accelerated path to wealth in a fast economy and development. Opportunities appear fast, but they disappear fast too. So I don't know, Vladimir, if what you're saying is, I've always said to people, you know, it's easier to make, as an example, if you live in India, you know, there's good returns to be made in India or South Africa or China or whatever, these sort of faster growing emerging economies where ultimately you can take more risk, you might have more experience. And so people tend to, you know, take that short-term risk and make faster capital, but then they tend to have wealth preservation when they invest in first world markets and protect their capital. I don't know if that's the question you're asking, but I think you know, if that is, that would be my answer. Cheryl said, is there a recording for the webinar you did with Ann Wilson, please? I don't know, actually, Lee. We did that for Ann's tribe, as she calls it, which was her mastermind. And I know the one that we did previously between Ann and I was for our inner circle. So the recording's available if you're part of the inner circle, but I don't think it's publicly available.
No, and I can reach out, Cheryl, and see whether Anne would be happy to share that. But I know that her mastermind is also a paid-for mastermind, and so I'm not sure whether I'll get the link. I'll get back to you, though.
Yeah, at best, we would get it to put in our inner circle. We wouldn't be able to put it out publicly. And then, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name, but Bawa has just joined the inner circle. So welcome, Bawa. Fantastic to have you as part of it. And you know, for those of you that go to the inner circle, you'll actually see when you go to the Wealth University. I think I had it live here open. Well, where did I have the Wealth University open? I did have it open somewhere. Yeah, let me just open it up again for you. You'll actually see that it's a login. So the beauty of what Lee and the team have created is you can actually log in here. You can go into all, so it's got a back-end library and all the stuff. So it's not just the one-off, it's the ongoing in terms of where we're at. So ladies and gentlemen, I can see that we've basically got 4 or 5 minutes left. I want to finish off with a few slides for you in terms of where we're at, and you know, just to really extend a massive thank you to all of you for joining. You know, I do always sort of tend to say to people, we believe a lot in our purpose, and that is that we want to empower the 99% to be able to invest like the top 1%. If you found value out of tonight, and obviously it was free for you, I ask for one commitment in return, and that's to share with other people. We cannot empower 1 billion people without us collectively doing it together. And I believe that you've got a responsibility now, based on the knowledge that you've got, to share it with others. And why I say that is because we've all been indoctrinated by the education system and the financial industry. And unfortunately, statistically, you know, 49% of the world's wealth is held in real estate. Only 12.9% of the world's population actually has access to that real estate. And of that 12.9%, you and me, I almost guarantee it, less than 1% of us are going to retire well at 65. We find that disgusting, and we want to change that, but we need your help. And so please, you know, when Lee sends you out the recordings, please share it with your friends. Put it on social media, put it on Facebook and Instagram, forward the emails to your friends. We're building a movement, and we're doing it on purpose. We call it the wealth movement. We want to create a better and more sustainable planet for all. And it's critically, critically important that we do it together. And so I ask you, as a commitment, that if you've stayed this long, hopefully we've added value to you. Please share it with others. We want to keep growing the momentum. Every Wednesday, the first Wednesday of every month, we have WealthE Wednesday. We'll do the deals at lunchtime. We'll have a learning session in the evening. And what's critically important for us is that we drop our minimum investments down to $1,000 so that everyone can participate. Hopefully in the future, it might even be lower. And on the Wealth University products, we also have significant discounts. But it only is for 24 hours. If you wake up tomorrow morning and say you're going to take action tomorrow morning, that's perfect, but you're going to pay $250 for the inner circle, and you're going to probably have a minimum investment of $10,000. Why do we do it? Well, we like to create that Black Friday urgency and get the excitement on the first Wednesday of every month. And so from my side, I want to thank everyone for being online. It's been fantastic to have so much engagement. Really, really appreciate it. Lee, as always, you've been incredible. Thank you so much. You are the architect and the what's the with an orchestra, the person that plays the little stick. What are they called?
The conductor.
The conductor. You're the conductor of our WealthE Wednesday. So it's with a huge amount of gratitude to say thank you very, very much. I really, really appreciate everything that you've done. And I'm just trying to see if there's any things that I've missed. I only see you, Lee, and Scott, no other screens viewing on cell phones. So no, we're pretty much done. It's just the thank you screen. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a fantastic night. I have a dinner to go to now, and hopefully we've added a huge amount of value. Lee, closing words from yourself as head of our community.
I'd just like to say thank you for everyone being on here. It's been great to see the engagement on both this session and the session earlier. We look forward to seeing you again. I think it is the 4th of October. Please reach out to me with any questions you have, queries, anything you want to add, how we can make this better for you, add more value to you on WealthE Wednesdays. We look forward to building the community with you and going on this journey with you.
Fantastic.
Thanks, everybody. Have a fabulous evening.
Good night, everyone. And if you're watching the recording, I hope you enjoy it, and don't be shy to share. If we're going to change the world, we have to do it one person at a time. Good night. And most importantly, hopefully tonight, we've inspired you to achieve the impossible for you in your life. Cheers.